I regret to say that this document is nothing more than an optical illusion. This, in our opinion, will not address the enormity of the challenge we all face. Therefore, India opposes the adoption of this document.
70% of global leaders refuse to go to Baku.
Conversation then has to be really about mode of finance,
Yeah.
how the finance is coming in, rather than the quantum itself.
They kept on repeating the word that we have come in good faith.
The headline was that India was angry. Think about the number of issues that UNFCCC has to handle. It is an unmanageable platform and a negotiation that is being led by generalists. And it started with a principle which one half of the world doesn't agree with. Welcome to a new episode of COgreen, an iFOREST podcast on the science, technology, economics and politics of local and global environmental challenges. I'm Chandra Bhushan, and today we are diving deep into global climate politics and policy. This was an important climate conference in Baku, Azerbaijan. It had to deliver on three major outcomes: a finance deal, a carbon market agreement, and most importantly, this COP, this climate conference, had to build trust between countries for next year's commitment on NDC, nationally determined contributions. So this was a very important COP. Joining me today are my two colleagues, Srestha and Mandvi, who were on the ground in Baku, actively engaging with negotiators on issues of just transition and green energy. Today, we will unpack their experiences at COP29 and analyze outcomes. Most importantly, given the tense conclusion of the talks, it was very acrimonious. We will discuss the following issues. First, what impact will the tense ending of COP will have on the future of UN Climate Convention? Second, is the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, is still an effective platform for driving global ambitious climate action? Third, if not, then what reforms are needed at UNFCCC to strengthen multilateralism? And of course, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, Donald Trump and his re-election. He is going to be the president of the United States, and how his presidency is going to impact the climate multilateralism. So let's dive in. You have also attended COP before, right? This was not your first COP. So what was the mood there? Was it optimistic? Were people expecting this outcome?
I think for both of us, this was only our second COP.
Mine third.
Oh, Srestha's third, so mine second. And I reached at the beginning of the second week. So by that time, the mood had already become slightly tense, because not a lot of people were expecting the outcomes to be quite strong for developing countries already at that point, at the beginning of week 2. So the mood definitely was not very optimistic, and one could use the word pessimistic, but I think everybody tries to be a little balanced in their sort of, how they frame their mood. I'll give you an example. We attended a lot of press briefings, because that's really a good spot to catch the sort of the opinion that people are putting out, or the mood that they have. And we went to the G77 in China press briefing, and there was a lot of disappointment that they were very, very visibly putting out. The word frustrated was thrown out a lot, both by the the leaders on the dais and also by journalists from developing countries. I think media was very clearly, they were not mincing their words and saying that this was really frustrating, as far as when you're looking for strong outcomes, COP to be turning the way that it was turning. But there was also a broad sense that you cannot lose faith in multilateralism. It has delivered strong outcomes in the past. We've seen people committing more than what they would have committed if this multilateral push was not behind them. So the sense which was being put out was balanced in that way, but definitely as far as outcomes were concerned, people did not have very high hopes even by the sort of middle of the week.
There was another word which was often uttered by LDCs and, and I remember the Minister of Environment, Colombia, she kept on telling me, she was very vocal during the negotiations. They kept on repeating the word that we have come in good faith and we are looking forward to something that helps us to tackle this crisis. But the mood started changing, of course, as we were drawing to the end, and there was nothing going on. There was no clear text that was put up, no quantification was put out. All numbers were being all around, people were talking about. So the pessimism was growing. But what was very interesting is also what we captured from the side events and various country pavilions where discussions were ongoing was a clear sense of everyone looking forward to the next COP, Brazil.
Really?
Really, yeah. And it was almost like many slogans were coming out, Baku to Belém, and what do we expect for Belém. Even Belém became the conversation starters in many of the, for example, in some of the just transition events I attended, or on adaptation for that matter also. This was very strong sentiment that was going on.
So you think that Azerbaijan was not prepared to host this?
Azerbaijan did not reflect the enthusiasm maybe which we saw in Sharm el Sheikh, or even for that matter in Dubai, when everyone went with first UAE hosting it was a lot of skepticism, but then everyone embraced. But in Baku that sense was never clear.
But also there was an incident that happened in the first week when the president of Azerbaijan came and said that natural gas is gift from God. Oil and gas is gift from God, and that gift we have and we want to use it. Saying that in a climate conference. An year after, when the world has agreed to phase down fossil fuel, I think would have been a mood dampener, right?
No, the issue of that presidency was, I think, there in all informal conversations where it was sort of added a layer of controversy that this is the third consecutive COP which is being sort of hosted by a fossil fuel producing country.
You're right. I don't know the reason why you had three consecutive fossil fuel economies hosting COP. But even in Dubai, there was this controversy that UAE was using this conference to further their oil and gas business. And the same controversy was there at Azerbaijan as well,
also,
right? So you think that people were expecting this outcome, right? That it's not going to be ambitious.
I think there was a hope that if these commitments are put in the right manner, then it will also help countries to raise their indices and become more ambitious about climate action. And therefore, there was I would say, hope against hope in some ways.
But the question is that hope, knowing the fact that the biggest economy in the world, US has just elected a climate denier. Donald Trump, last time when he was elected, he got out of Paris Agreement, in fact, immediately. The expectation this time also is that the US maybe will be out of Paris Agreement, and if not out, it will be a disruptive element. So I'm a little surprised that even after Donald Trump election, developing countries were hoping that an ambitious deal will come.
I mean, from what we heard, they did not say that they are hopeless, but the frustration evidently started growing by the end. But generally, I think there was skepticism about, and I don't know why it did not come out very clearly, and I saw it in the media also, it seemed like everything is going fine around the first week, because in fact Donald Trump has chosen, we all know Chris Wright as the energy secretary, who is a oil and gas executive, who is a climate skeptic just like him. So there is every chance that he'll pull out. And we also know that, since October, Trump is also pushing for defense spending by Europe and all that sorts it's going on. So the problem is that maybe the optics was not out, that people are skeptic, but it became more and more evident in the second week. But I must say that US was not too much in the discussions in the room. The discussions, it was not spelt out. Though the US spokesperson, very interestingly, he spoke of nothing but documenting good practices that US has done in the just transition discussion, which was nothing practically, he said. But yeah, I believe that, people did not put it out because maybe it was so evident that Donald Trump will do nothing. It was nothing to discuss even.
But Mandvi, I have another question. Listen, in 2009, developed countries agreed that they will give $100 billion, right? They met that target in 2022. They had to meet by 2020, which they didn't. They met that target in 2022. Now, independent assessment of their contribution shows that almost 70% of what they gave was almost like market rate loans.
Yeah.
Okay. And 30% was concessional loan or grant. The question I have is, developing countries were demanding trillions, $1.3 trillion, in the background of the fact that these countries had failed to deliver billions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're right in the sense that, given what has happened in the past and what has been delivered, the ask was very high. Maybe they hoped that they will settle somewhere higher than 300 if the ask is that high.
So they were negotiating.
They were negotiating. You start higher
at
than
a
what,
higher level and hope that something middle, it'll get to the middle.
Perhaps, I mean, of course, there are studies that show that this will be the requirement if this is your target. So you're really starting at that point of what do we need to achieve the climate goal that you've set. So it's fair. It's a fair ask from that perspective. But it is unrealistic and a hope against hope when you look at the trends from the past. And especially in the current geopolitical scenario where, you're looking at, things like Trump's election where his commitment to fossil fuel is so strong, and then you have, the climate denying and, stepping out of Paris Agreement, etc. All of that looming around. It also gives strength to other countries who align with that thought process, and so Saudi Arabia was able to kind of ensure that the fossil fuel phase out is not included, which could not have been there if US position would have been strong. And also then EU currently, who is trying to take some sort of a lead from the developed countries side to put out the right things. I mean, they are struggling internally themselves. There's their economies. There's who would contribute how much internally. There's a struggle there. They're not on the equal footing. And then also from a political perspective, there is a right-wing resurgence even in some of the major countries in Europe. So from a geopolitical perspective, you understand why that commitment. Sort of from the developed country side got conditioned in the current scenario. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about India. The headline was that India was angry, right? By the last intervention of India was very uncharacteristic. India generally, Indian bureaucrats and diplomats are not that vocal on these issues. And it came out that they were dissatisfied, right? Why do you think this uncharacteristic response to the UNFCCC Secretariat and the COP Presidency? Was it that they were not happy with the deal, or was it that they were not happy with the process, that they were not included? What do you think? Why this uncharacteristic response?
There was a sense of that India did not have a pavilion this year. So, India went with some sort of skepticism, and I would say also in the process maybe, because at that time the numbers were not even out. So, that shows something, that maybe there is something that was going on with the process itself. And the angry statement that came out from the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Environment representatives was both to do with, I believe, the process as well as the quantum that was. And the process was mainly because the gavel was struck even before, while the country wanted to speak and raise their objections, they were not allowed the platform. And that was considered to be not something which is acceptable when you are having this kind of deliberations. You need to hear out people before even you draw the conclusion.
I'll tell you what, I was at Copenhagen when, because of one country, Bolivia. Bolivia had objected to Copenhagen Agreement, and the agreement was not adopted. UNFCCC process is based on unanimity, okay, that it has to be unanimous, and even if one party does not agree, the decision is not adopted. I believe that the COP presidency as well as Secretariat knew that India will object.
Perhaps.
And to the deal. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I think it is pretty clear, and not just India, maybe there were other countries also that they thought would be in a similar position, because the last day was quite chaotic in that arena, as in, you know, there were countries, negotiators not allowed to get inside the meeting room. Why did you have to choose a space which was smaller than what was required? So, and outside people were struggling to get in, even the sort of key party people. So whether it was intentional, not intentional, I mean, it could have been definitely handled better if, you know, it brings the intention.
I think it was intentional.
For sure.
Because the COP president has written an article in Guardian. Okay. He has written an article saying that he kept asking developed countries to release the draft of the text, and developed countries kept, delaying it. If the draft would have been released before, maybe this kind of, confusion wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So I do believe that developed countries knew that this deal will not be agreed by any country. At least, the major countries will reject this deal, and therefore they didn't allow them to object. Which I think is an underhand method to deal with multilateralism. I also believe that maybe the deal has been adopted now, okay, the agreement has been adopted. It will get reversed, or something will happen in next COP. Okay, India will go, or other countries will go, and they will say that this deal is not acceptable to us till it is revised. What do you think?
I mean, definitely sets a wrong precedence, because, then where is the question of faith in the process and in the or the count, exactly.
The Indian spokesperson used trust 20 or 25 times in her speech.
No, but it's fair. It's fair. And also, what is India getting out of it? Like, so far, if you look at climate finance, we've been getting what, $20 million annually almost.
Which is nothing.
Which is nothing. We need 170 per year if we want to reach the goals by 2030. And majority of it has been from domestic, public and private funds. And whatever little has come from the international side also has been largely, loans that have come from MDBs and bilateral banks, which has again largely been in infrastructure profit-making projects like renewables or transport. So really, what is this deal giving us to be happy about? Okay. So there was
a combination of both, I think, an underhand process, and as well as what India would have got out of this deal. Okay, with $300 billion, and this $300 billion is not in public fund in any case. Okay, they are going to include everything. Like
absolutely,
they're going to count everything as they did last time. Okay.
Yeah, but CB, you're a COP veteran in some ways. You've attended more COPs than what my sort of career years total. But what was your sense of the current COP, in the sense that given the geopolitical scenario we're in, did you expect outcomes to be different? Could it have been handled differently for the outcomes to be even marginally better?
Okay. Let me give you my sense. 70% of global leaders, important global leaders, refused to go to Baku. Okay. That was the first indication that they knew that it is going to become acrimonious. Okay. That if they are there, it will be a bad optics. That they knew that it's not going to be a deal which is going to make people happy. Okay. So the first indication I had was, why is it that US President is not there, China President is not there, or even their senior ministers. From India, even the Environment Minister was not there. Right?
I mean, they use
that's
G20
partly because of internal elections.
I mean, that's also bad planning that you have G20 in parallel to COP.
But one could have managed. Generally, what happens is that leaders go in the first week. Okay, they set the stage. And then in the next week, negotiator come in and they broker the deal. Okay. So that was not a good excuse, because G20 in the first week there was a clear difference. Time difference was there. So my first reaction was that this is not going to be a very good place to negotiate something as important as finance.
Finance. Yeah.
Okay, so that was my first thing. Second was that whatever optimism people had, the moment Donald Trump was elected, it became clear that the finance deal is not going to be ambitious. And the reason is very simple. US is 1/4 of the global economy, right?
Big contribution.
And if anyone has to contribute, without US contribution, you are not going to meet any meaningful financial commitment. So that was number 2. And number 3 was that if you look at post Dubai, right? And there were a number of meetings that happened before Baku. There was no agreement. Okay, and it was very acrimonious. It was very bitter.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting an ambitious finance deal. Okay, but in any case, I have never expected. I am one of the very few people who believe that expecting developed countries to give billions and trillions to developing countries is never going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 30 years of climate change negotiations show that developed countries have never given the kind of money that is required. Most of the climate action has happened through market or because of contribution from developing countries themselves. Okay. Developed countries have given very little in the name of climate action. They have been rebranding profitable project, infrastructure project as climate. Okay. But the real climate money for adaptation, for loss and damage, for technology transition has not come from them. Okay. So I also believe that the expectation of developing countries that democracies like US will give billions of dollars from public exchequer is something that's not going to happen. And therefore I have been, and many of us, I'm not the only one, many of us have been saying that you need meaningful reforms in global financial system because the current global financial system is working unfavorably for developing countries. And I always give this example that a Tanzanian pays 4 times more interest rate to put a solar rooftop than an American and 8 times more than a Swede.
Yeah. So the conversation then has to be really about the mode of finance, how the finance is coming in, rather than the quantum itself.
And also, so if suppose we have a meaningful reform in global financial market, where a Tanzanian is able to get at an interest rate of 4% to set up solar rooftop, they will immediately replace their DG set. If you've been to Dar es Salaam, okay, the city runs on DG sets, or for that matter, most African countries. Even DG set is very prominent in India. Then at that interest rate, it makes sense for people to move from a polluting technology to a non-polluting one. So I think we can get trillions of dollars for developing countries if we reform the global financial system. That is my, my approach. Expecting these countries to give money has not materialized in the past, and I don't think it is going to materialize in the future.
Apart from the financial system, you have also been talking for a while now whether UNFCCC as a platform is the right one to actually now to push for climate action. What is your take on that?
And I have been engaged deeply with 2 processes. The Vienna Convention on phasing out ozone depleting substance, and the Montreal Protocol. And then I have been involved with UNFCCC. Now, Montreal Protocol is a very focused protocol. The protocol is designed to phase down chemicals. It's a small protocol and it delivers result because it is a manageable platform, right? So if you look at it, HFCs and CFCs are also global warming gases. In fact, CFC, chlorofluorocarbon, the first gas which was phased down under Montreal Protocol, has global warming potential which is 10,000 times more than carbon dioxide. The recent assessment shows that Montreal Protocol has contributed more to reducing global warming than UNFCCC itself.
Yes.
Okay, and at a very small money. I think the total contribution of developed countries to developing countries under Montreal Protocol is only about $3 billion. It's not a huge amount of money. So, a small focus protocol.
So,
And the second, UNFCCC, which is trying to solve everything in the world. At UNFCCC, everything under the sun is discussed. Okay? Market, technology, finance, sectors, adaptation, loss and damage. Think about the number of issues that UNFCCC has to handle. Okay? So my argument has always been that it is an unmanageable platform. Okay. And because you are trying to, and who are the negotiators? Negotiators are not expert in every topic.
Yeah,
And a negotiation that is being led by generalists.
absolutely.
So two things, unmanageable platform, generalist, and it started with a principle which one half of the world doesn't agree with. Okay.
consensus.
No, the principle that someone has to do more and others will do later.
Okay.
Developed countries,
Differentiate.
I think that differentiation, the way it has been designed at UNFCCC, developed countries, do not agree with it. Therefore, they have never been supportive of this. And slowly they have chipped this differentiation. Okay. But also, I do not believe that China should today be considered as a developing country.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. Yeah.
Yeah.
That came up a lot.
Even not
Many
just China.
countries.
I mean, there are many other countries, like you have South Korea, you have Singapore, you have the
UAE.
moan of
Yes.
what the
UAE
major
is
oil
developing
producing nations.
While I agree that developed countries, because they have done most of the pollution historically, they are still a major emitter.
Responsible.
They're
Yeah.
still a major emitter. They have to take a lead.
Yeah.
And they have to support developing countries, especially those who are small and vulnerable developing countries. I do not buy this argument that China now cannot take a absolute emission cut target, or that UAE is a developing country and it will not take. Okay, those arguments, if we are really serious about climate change, okay, then these countries cannot hide behind the name of developing countries and not take action. And I think that is the crux of the matter. And therefore, I have been saying that instead of thinking about an omnibus UNFCCC, let's think about maybe manageable platform. Keep UNFCCC, I'm not saying get rid of it.
Within it, yeah, break it down.
As a stock taking platform, once a year or twice a year to take stock of what is happening. But think about sectoral platforms, similar to Montreal Protocol, where real action can happen, where real commitments can be given. Okay. This is what I have been, I wrote about it almost 5 years back. But I do see, in fact, I'm going to ask you, there was a huge push at Baku with someone writing letters, some prominent global people that we need to reform UNFCCC, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. In fact, it was very interesting to see the list of signatories where Mr. Ban Ki-moon was there, who has been, he has been quite quiet when he was the Secretary General, right? But I was very surprised to see his name as the signatory.
That you find is very common in India.
It's very common, like
retire,
you become the
vocal
His
one.
name was a big surprise to me when I was reading the letter that was written. But yeah, I think the thing is that, but I believe, CB, this is the point, this is a conversation now to pick up on, and to push for something that which is not working. In fact, there is not just skepticism, I mean, in a broader scope on what UN can do about climate change, but in every front. We have been seeing, right, more and more countries are taking up responsibility. UN being heavily controlled by US, in fact, headquartered in US and being very controlled by US has been very ineffective in many ways in some. So, the skepticism is growing around it, and I think this is a right time, maybe Baku was the death in the knoll to start the conversation that really do we rely on this platform, I mean, or really given now that 20 years, 30-year time is left.
Next is going to be COP30.
Yeah, we spent 30 years without anything, and if we really have 30 years left and the crisis is only going to be worsened, do you?
I also think that
move with the status quo.
In some way, our expectation from civil society is also that every COP we must have a headline deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's also problematic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You think Yeah, every COP we need a headline deal to call it a success.
I think it's the pressure that the presidencies tend to take on themselves.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's fair. I mean, I don't know. It's just too much to ask, perhaps. Yeah.
But also think about it. Every COP we have a deal. We celebrate that deal, but no one follows
through.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so we have adaptation fund, we have loss and damage fund. I don't know how many funds we have, but there's hardly any money in that fund. Okay. People do not talk about it, how those funds are operating.
Are going to be operating.
So our expectation that every COP should have a headline deal is also not correct. UNFCCC, I believe, now has an overall architecture. Okay, we have a mitigation deal. Whatever you agree or disagree, we have a finance deal, which will be challenged, by the way. We have a deal on adaptation, we have a deal on loss and damage.
Yeah.
So the
You've
circle is
covered all
complete.
ground, yeah.
Instead of thinking about another new deal, okay, maybe the time is that we should make UNFCCC a platform where we stop it.
These are,
We just ask how much you have done, and we hold countries accountable. Maybe that is the way to move ahead.
Yeah.
So, overall happy? Did you get to see anything in Baku?
Yes, I think more than the COP, the surprise was the city itself, which was, I would say, it's a very beautiful city with beautiful architecture, which is bringing in, you have
Central Asian and European
Central
mix.
Asian and European.
A lot of Soviet influence also.
Lot of Soviet
we
cardbox houses.
not really, but we visited some Russian churches, which is very different. But I think it's a very nice city to begin with. Generally, I think there was a lot of positivism about the way they managed the COP, which I think is really nice, which was done very well. We are drinking coffee, lots of coffee, more than you expect in other COPs. So all in all, it was fine. But I think everyone is now looking to the next one, which is Brazil.
Yeah, I think expectation, again, we are putting too much pressure on
too much pressure
on Brazil to, in fact, I have also written in my column.
No, but it's okay. I think it also was very interesting, what you started off with, like in 1992 when it started off. It started off with Rio. So everyone is thinking now this is the end to do something about climate.
So the circle is going to complete and we are going to get something new.
So it's some sort of optics also.
The delegation, people from the Brazilian delegation, they kept reiterating this again and again, that when you come to Brazil next year, you will see completely different things. And the sense would be different. So at least they're trying to sort of create that positive
And also Lula is there.
Lula is there.
That adds to it.
And he has been giving out, I think that was one of the reasons also people remained a little, positive about the outcome, because G20 was putting out strong statements headed by the Brazilian presidency that the tripling up of the renewables, but also financial
He was very
commitments.
critical on finance. The
He
Lula
was very critical.
Statement
so
on finance
he
was
became very critical after that, and then now he is telling that it's the last hope next year. So let's see.
Let's hope that we will have something positive coming out of next COP, because I do believe that this COP has done two things. Okay, one, it has put a big question mark on UNFCCC process itself. If you are going to use underhand methods to get a deal, then it's problematic. It's problematic for the very nature of multilateralism. That is number one. And number two, the deal is something which has not satisfied anyone. Okay. So, one, process problem, second, trust problem, third, ambition problem. All three problems have come out of Baku. And my sense is that maybe we will have some rectification in Brazil. Let's hope for the best. And we all should go to Brazil next year.
Yes.
Okay. So friends, that's all for today's episode. Thanks to Srestha and Mandvi for sharing your insights. Follow us at iFOREST Global on LinkedIn, Instagram, X and YouTube. And please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you.